Okay, here's how to make some changes to the files themselves. So not the viewer, but the files that you're viewing in the viewer. We're in my downloads folder. We're gonna go double click on FSRR to launch that file, to open that file in Google Earth Pro. And we're gonna, well, first, I am gonna turn off the state boundaries, and we're looking just at the map file. Um, you notice if you expand the folder structure, I've got these. Let's look a little bit at how I've got this organized internally. Those are vias activas, active tracks now. These are inactive tracks. They have a different, the way they're set now, they have a different view property. And then these are trackage rights. There are none in there right now. Let's double click on viaducts and actually let's zoom in and look at what these actually are. There's a viaduct right there. That's what that is. It is a polygon object, and then lastly there's a tunnel. We'll turn that on and off so you can see it. Okay, so these things, I've got this file structure built so that things that have what I think is an important common property, in this case, whether there's active tracks or inactive tracks, they have a common view state, and I've organized them, this folder structure, so that you can control them in one, minimal clicks, minimal. Now these represent decisions on my part, and you can change these decisions, but by putting the main tracks, the sidings, the crossovers, and the other tracks, that's yard tracks, etc. If they are active, putting them in a folder called active, what I allow is I allow global changes to all those objects at once. I don't require those. You can go in here and change just the main tracks. We're going to do that right now. Right click, properties, and everything in this folder, in the selected folder, vias principales, which is main tracks, is going to, right now, we're going to make some changes, and that'll affect all those objects, but not affect the unselected objects, so all the other stuff. We're going to make those something we can see real easy. We're going to make those blue, and we'll change the width of them, so we're going to change them from 3 to 13, and you'll see what that looks like. And then we'll change the opacity to 75%. Now let's make it 45% so you can see really clearly what that means. So I just showed you how the controls work, but also I showed you a second really unrelated thing, which is that the changes get made to whatever is selected, and in this case that was everything in the main tracks folder. Now unfortunately this software doesn't have a back button, so there's a couple ways. If you don't like those changes, you're going to have to reselect and remember what you did, and I think it was that color maybe. It may not be. I think I may have actually made a custom color for this, a color that's not in the standard HTML hexadecimal colors that this software gives you, at least when you run it in Windows. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to show you a way to change stuff back. I'm going to copy this item out of here, and that is, let's zoom in and see what that is. That is so that's a siding. There it is right there. And in particular, if we click on this, this is Escape Santa Rita. So that's Santa Rita's siding. I'm going to copy that item, right click, select copy, and then I'm going to go in, expand this folder, Vias Principales, the main tracks, and I am going to right click and paste, and now that's the first, the top or first item in the folder, the topmost item in this folder. Let's get organized so we can see here. In Vias Principales. So if you right click now and choose properties, and then click share style, it applies the properties of the first item to everything, the topmost or first item in the folder to everything in the folder, and you have no control. You don't have individual control. It applies all three properties, color, width, and opacity, to everything in the folder, and that's that. But anyway, now remember, now you're going to have disorganization if you leave that there, so you'll have a hard time understanding if you've got two copies of things. You'll have a hard time understanding. So now it's important to recognize that these were choices of mine, and they were based on my idea about what would be important to you guys, the user community, which kind of distinctions would be important to you guys, and how to control those and show those. But those are my choices about my guesses about how you're going to want to use this, and those might not be right. So you know, it's easy to rearrange, you know, move, copy, etc. It's really that simple. You just grab and drag, and you can restructure the whole thing very quickly. A little bit of study of what's here, and you'll understand how to do that very quickly. Anyway, that's how to make some changes that affect the way this stuff appears to you, and that could be really important because, for example, these colors may not work well for you, and there are a bunch of reasons why that might be the case. Also, these widths might not appeal to you well. Getting a color scheme that works and is recognizable, evocative, and useful to you, and is also visible across all these different qualities of background image is actually quite challenging. And there's no reason to think that there may be many valid reasons you might want to change this. Color blindness, which is somewhat common in human populations, that might be a reason. So anyway, a second topic we're going to touch on really quick. Let's go in my downloads folder, and I'm going to launch a file with a bunch of employee timetable information. A second topic is the view qualities of these items. We're going to zoom in on one of these placemark items. How the view qualities of these work. Here we go. Here's how you change the label color. We're going to change that to fuchsia color. Here's how you change the size of it right there. Here's how you change the size and color of the icon. We're going to make that icon, well, green's not too great. We're going to make it white there, which looks like red. We're going to choose a different icon. Now it's an arrow. And then once again, so now we've got large magenta or fuchsia or whatever text and arrows. It's important to remember that since I just changed the first or topmost item in this folder, if I now right click and affect the properties of the folder, that topmost item, its qualities are going to be applied to everything in the folder. So there's a global change made. Now once again, this software has no Control Z or back button properties, so you made a bunch of changes. If you don't like those, you can either well, there's obviously a bunch of strategies for dealing with that, one of which is delete and throw this away. You could also just, we didn't change this one, and this one used to have the same properties as this, so if I now move that up there in the file structure, and then right click, choose properties, and we're going to affect, I'm going to share style of everything in the entire file, that is in the top level folder. And so since I just moved an item with the old properties, that is the yellow text, to the top of the list, the first thing when this share style command gets executed, the first thing it's going to come to is an item with those properties right there, those yellow properties, and that's because I just moved it to the top. So it's going to read down from top to bottom, come to that item first, and apply those properties to everything in all the folders. So that'll change the purple magenta text back to the old style, and there it is. And then now remember, you've got everything out of order, so you know, there it is back the way it was. Not that there's any, this is actually, I believe, in timetable, employee timetable order, so that's the entire value of that. And that is it. Next video we'll talk a little bit about, so if you make some of these changes that affect your ability to see stuff, how do you save those changes to the file? And then there's a few complications to that. That's the next topic.